Specifying slice type and slice options. So a slice type and the options assigned to it determine how the artwork contained in that specific slice will function on the web page. Slice options, we have three categories that we can choose or specify. That is image, no image, and HTML. Let's go ahead and define a few of these slices by putting the settings in that slice options dialog box. So to get to the slice options dialog box, I need to use my slice selection tool. Underneath the slice tool is that slice selection tool, and this allows me to select a slice. Let's start with just a blank one here. This is very easy. This is just a simple white. So between the three different options, we have to determine what's in our slice and what would the best option be. Under the object menu, I'm going to navigate to slice and choose slice options. This opens up my slice options dialog box. Here are my three options that I have. Now this one is grayed out because of what the content is in my selected slice. So let's talk about these for a minute. So the image slice. This is when I want the content of the slice to become a linked image file on the web. So it's an image. The no image allows me to fill in this slice or the area contained with either text or solid color. So I can enter text in here, text displayed in the cell, or I can also then choose what kind of color, solid color. I cannot view this in Illustrator. I can only view this slice in a web browser. And you have to be cautious here of the color consistency, because if I choose, let's just move this off to the side and just imagine if I had this slice selected, it was a color other than white, and I had that same color going behind my flower. If I chose this to be no image and defined a color here in my background where I could choose black, white, if I choose other, I open up my color picker and I could choose it to be a specific color. Now what I'd have to do is make sure that that would match then the color that's behind my flower. They would be defined differently. This one would be an image, this would be no image. I could have some color consistency issues, so you should be cautious of that. And then the HTML text would be only available if I used the make slice command, and it would capture the formatting of the text, both the text and the formatting that I've applied in Illustrator. So that's the HTML, which is grayed out right now because I don't have those qualifications. I've not used the make slice command to create a slice. So it's best to save a version of your artwork with the displayed text converted to outlines and then define it as an image right here. That would be your best option because then we know for certain that the text is going to appear like it should. There's no risk of it being modified. Depending on different browsers, it'll treat your text differently. So by converting it to outlines, choosing it to be an image, it's really your safest option there. Okay, so while we're in this first one, let's look at a little bit more detail on some of these options. So when we choose image, and of course this one maybe is not the best to be image, but being I have it selected and my options is right here, we'll go with it. So we have, of course, our type. Then we have the name. And default, the name that we see here is the name that was given to it by Illustrator when the slice was defined. Notice it's 07 and this is user 07. So it is a good idea to rename this into a more descriptive name related to the content. So in my case, white box, I don't know if that's much more descriptive or not, but you get the idea. The URL, so this is where we can specify sort of a hotspot on the web page. So if I put in a URL there, which I happen to have one that's saved, that means that in this slice, this entire slice becomes a hotspot for a link to that URL. Probably would be better to do it maybe on the picture or actually the button. But remember that it's the whole slice that's defined as the hotspot. Once I put a URL in there, then my target is able to be given, and the target is basically how this is going to react, maybe would be the best way. So it specifies how I want the link to target. The two most common that are used are blank and parent. So let me define what these are. Blank opens a new browser window. So a new browser window is opened, or we call it spawned. This is very common. The other one that we see a lot of is parent. And this is where the current window will change to show the linked page. So it specifies the parent of the current window. The self specifies the current frame in the current window, and top specifies the top level frame in the current window. So just remember that blank is probably going to be one of your most common, where a new window is opened or spawned, and parent where the current window will change to the linked page. And it depends on what you have that you're doing. That goes into some interactive guidelines and principles there. Most likely, if it's going to be a link that takes you to a new website, you're going to want to choose blank, because we want that to be spawned in a new window, opened in a new window, so I can close that window and go back to my original where I started. Message is where I can put in some text there, and this appears in the status bar of the browser window when the cursor is positioned over this image slice. So I'm in my browser window, I put my cursor over top of this slice, and this will appear, this message will then appear in my browser window in the status bar. So it's usually information about what the image is or what it links to. Alt, remember that means alt, alternative, alt tag. This is for screen readers. So, this is where the text would be read for any kind of those accessibility devices utilized. Background specifies the color for background behind transparent areas. So, like I said, I can choose black, white, I can eyedropper color, or I can get into my color picker by choosing other. So those are for the image slice options. If I chose no image here, then I have an option to put in some text. This is the text displayed in this the cell option here. And so this is where I would enter text that would appear in the slice. I can format the text with my standard HTML tags. Text is HTML up there. Be careful not to enter more text than that would appear in that slice. So in this slice, it would fill in this entire slice. I also then have my cell alignment, where I can align it horizontally, left, center, right, or I can vertically align it as well. So top, baseline, middle, bottom. And again, we see the same background color. And again, you need to think logically about that color and the color consistency throughout your whole page. So those are the options. Remember, you need to use your slice selection tool, select your slice, then go to your object menu, slice, and slice options, and that's where you can choose those three options for your slice.